Hey, everybody. This is Lady C coming at you with another episode of Hidden Struggles. And I have a panel of former ladies who were once part of this group called Jehovah's Witnesses. And today we are here to share our stories, share our energy and experiences together. I have Maya, Rashana, and T.
Hi, everybody. I'm T, and I'm very honored to be here and looking forward to the discussion today.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm so happy and excited to meet with this group of ladies and really looking forward to talking about some things we're all very familiar with.
Hi, I'm Shauna, and I was a third generation witness and very much happy to be out of the organization and excited to talk to the others.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for being here today. So, you guys want to kind of talk about how you've been feeling after you left?
I feel great. So, I wasn't born in. I did come in as an adult convert, and I would say the greatest thing for me, having been gone almost 9 years, is the level of anxiety has reduced greatly. I had never been an anxious person prior to becoming a witness, but I would say that's the biggest thing. Just not filled with dread and anxiety all the time. So I really feel like I've gotten back to, as my channel, same Ole Tee, and being able to thrive and just function and grow, not feel guilty for being ambitious and things of that nature.
I've got to agree. I feel great too. I was basically born in because my mother started studying when I was 1 years old. So I've been out for about 6 years completely. And I feel like every day is a beautiful day. It's much better than the day before, and I feel like I finally get to live my life, not the life that somebody else scripted for me.
I agree with both of them. I did not know it, but when I finally got my medical files as I got older, I saw that my doctor had put down when I was 15 that I suffered from depression. And I have to say that being out of the organization, I don't have those same feelings. I always felt like I had to be perfect. My dad was an elder, my mom a pioneer. So you have like this appearance that you have to present all the time. And it feels so good to be authentically me and to be okay with making mistakes. And because I mean, that's just how it is. And also to realize that the mistakes that they consider mistakes are not mistakes. And so I know that being out of the organization, besides like seasonal, but now we move south, it's less of that. My depression definitely has like went extremely down.
Okay, excellent. Now, let's kind of shift to talk about your waking up moment and talk about how you left and would you do something different?
I would say, like, recalling the moment that I began to wake up, like, and allow myself to um, believe the questions, right? Instead of having them get kind of squashed down by the members, is when my father died. In that moment, everything in my spirit said, I'm not going to see him again. He's not going to be resurrected. And that was the beginning of me allowing myself to have doubts, even if I didn't express them to people. And I ended up going to nursing school, leaving teaching, going to nursing school. So that allowed me to have separation from the meetings and the friends and the whole JW routine. And ultimately graduating, meeting my husband who had no affiliation and saying, I'm not going to not pursue this relationship because he don't check this one box. So he likes to say that he was the reason I left. He just kind of came at the right time because I was already planning an escape. Like, how can I get out of this? Move to another state, do something. I think my only thing is I just wish I had done it sooner.
Even though I had doubts, I would like really quickly in my mind say, no, don't do that. But I know it was my husband because we were in the living room and he was already waking up. But he said, have you read anything about the Australia Royal Commission? And then I said, what is that? And he goes, you should check it out. And that was it. And then from that moment on, it just went down a rabbit hole. And then the annual meeting was the icing on the cake, because I just felt like everything they were talking about was not scriptural. They focused so much on tight pans, just irrelevant things that had no true meaning to anything that mattered. And also, they had no scriptures to back up anything. It just felt like they were constantly attacking us for every little thing. They were talking about brothers who were not elders, and why would you look at someone who's not an elder? And I knew some elders that I'm like, they should not be with anybody at all. So it was just those things, hearing the Australian Royal Commission, and then having my husband to be able to ask questions to, and him like just shaking his head and be like, that's interesting. And so it just kept me going down a hole, and I just found so many other things. I started looking up about how they felt about African American people, and after that it was a wrap for me.
So I took the very long way out of this religion. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I started having doubts when I was in my early 20s, and that's been 20 plus years. But I just didn't do anything about those doubts. I just felt like, well, this will be okay. I'll just stay here with these people that I love. I got married. My husband was an elder for many years. But what really happened was when I had my first child, I started to think very much about, do I really want to raise my kids in this religion that I know isn't true? And I knew I did not want to, and I had to figure a way to get out. Then I went back to school to get my master's degree, and at that point, I became a much more independent person. I took time away from the meetings to go to school, and that always just opens you up to just new thoughts, meeting new people, and it took about 10 years, but I was able to finally leave, stop going to the meetings, and my kids stopped going to the meetings. And then eventually my husband stopped going to the meetings, and it's been much better since then.
How did you guys feel about the relentless meetings we had to go to? I know when I was, one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I was part of the time period when we went out the house 3 times a week, but they always told us you're going to 5 meetings, even though you only physically left the house 3 times, right?
Mhm.
What did you guys think about the schedule of the meetings we had to do?
I know I couldn't do it now. I cannot believe how much time we wasted, and how much time we gave. Because once me and my husband started going to college, and then we were working, and then the kids were in school, and I knew, I was like, there's no way we would have been able to do this. But now with our schedule now and the activities my kids are in school in, after I get off work, the last thing I can imagine is going into a Kingdom Hall and sitting there for hours. I don't know how I did it. I don't. I can't even get things in my schedule now. So like, it makes no sense how so before they went down to number 2 meetings, we were 3 meetings. So it was Tuesday, was a whole meeting. Book study night was in my house, so that means that we had to clean up, get everything ready on Thursday. Then Sunday, and then they were pushing for service after Sunday. So you think about that. You just did Saturday. Now you're going to the meeting on Sunday, and now you're going on field service on Sunday, and then Monday is like preparing for Tuesday night meeting. Tuesday, after that, Wednesday is preparing for third. What in the world? I don't even.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know,
I just think
Maya,
we're sitting here on Saturday morning. I mean, that's not where I would have been. I would have been out somewhere in somebody's field service, or sitting at lunch with people I don't really want to mess with, you know. And I don't know, like you said, Roshana, I don't know where we found the time, because right now I never have enough time. I don't know how I would add 5 meetings back into the time. And I know that's part of what opened my eyes was when I was pioneering, it was all I did was things related to Jehovah, morning, noon, and night. If I could get 30 minutes in a week to do something for myself, that was a lot. And at some point I said, wait a minute, this is crazy.
When I came in, it was the 3 days a week meeting set up. Yeah, I say it to my husband all the time. I was like, I don't see how I was doing it. And then I think I justified it because I was a teacher, I was single, I didn't have kids. So, you know, you like, well, I'm kind of working 7 to 3. I have, you know, time in between the meetings and things like that. But I was like, it's all designed to keep you constantly focused on them. So you don't have a moment to really have a free thought. You know, you feel guilty if you just say, it's not that I'm sick, I don't have the flu, but I just need a moment. Now you got to come up with a lie because you're going to get people texting you, calling you, we missed you at the meeting and this and that, you know. And yeah, it's just all consuming, all consuming. That's why I was saying going to nursing school gave me that separation from that routine. And even after I graduated nursing school, and they were so excited, can't wait so you can get back to your meetings, get back to your meetings. And yeah, I would lie sometime and tell them, oh, I couldn't get those days off. We was making our own schedule. I was like, I'm over y'all. So, you
I just
know.
I wanted to add that this is why, like my family, my mother, she kind of cut herself off from any of her worldly family. And I realized it was so easy to do that because we never had any time to see them. Any time was spent on the holidays. We would be at some congregation function, or we were in field service, or we were working where the need is great. And so we've got local family in this area who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, and we just lost about 15 years of not even really interacting with them just because the religion takes up so much time.
Mhm.
And also like family time too. I absolutely love spending time with my family, my kids. I mean, because they grow up so fast. And I'm thinking like in the organization, you know, we were so busy. I felt, and I agree with what you mentioned when you were talking about how you did it for your kids so that they didn't have to go through it, because my kids are not stressed out. They are not trying to live up to somebody else's expectations. They get to enjoy things like, for instance, I was telling you, Tobias started mock trial, and that's after school. Sometimes that runs through the weekends. That is not a problem. That is not a problem. Like, okay, what time do I need to try? But if we were in the organization, that guilt, that, like, you know, telling my kids they couldn't accomplish or do these things because we had to stay on that time schedule. You know, activities. I never did any after school activities. I didn't, you know, of course I ain't gonna wrestle. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, all the activities after school, we couldn't do those things because you had to do the things for the organization. And it's just like so great to not have that happen to your own kids. Like they get to do, after they get to just enjoy life. But it also makes you sad too, because you realize how much was taken away from you too, you know, and the fact of things that, like, for self-care. God, I love some self-care. I love it. And I love saying it because you couldn't say that either because it sounds selfish, you know. But like, I even push it on my students. We'll be in class and I'm like, hey, everybody, we're going to go outside for some self care. Like, it's just those things were taken away because we were constantly forced to be on this time schedule, things that we need to, like, literally breathe and function, you know, and we couldn't do that because they sucked up all our time.
Yeah, they
You
certainly
know,
did. Did any of you ever feel like you had to do more Watchtower stuff just to be accepted? I mean, just being a Jehovah's Witness is frontline, and okay, you're a sister, you're a brother, whatever, and you're in the organization. But did you ever find people in your congregation that felt like if you were doing more for the organization, they would be more willing to be around you as opposed to looking at you saying they're not spiritual? How did you feel about that?
I feel like I got a lot of that when I started going to school, you know, when I was getting my master's, because I did not make it to the midweek meetings, you know, and then people just didn't see me as much. And they just started to retreat. You know, it's like an unspoken sort of shunning that goes on because you're just not good enough to be with, you know, the crew that's always there. And I remember, and thinking about T when she was talking about gossip, when I was pioneering for all those years, as soon as you get in the car with the other pioneers, that's the first thing out their mouth is, oh, we didn't see Sister so-and-so at the last 2 meetings. And did you see this person and the outfit they were wearing? And do you know who just got this fellowship? So yeah, people are always judging you. That's part of the whole group mentality.
That like now being out, like you don't care if people judge you because it's like whatever. Oh, she late. Oh, whatever. But in the organization that really mattered because it actually affected what responsibilities and privileges, not that we got that many as sisters, did. And so, you just like, if you cared about that, which a lot of us do because that's the control part of it, we want it to be present sometimes. You want to like, oh, I'm going out and search. You do those things because you just want people to stop talking, honestly, and not knowing that you really don't owe them anything at all. But of course, in the organization, they make you feel like you're all a unit connected. If I wasn't at the book study, they would get on Terrence. Oh, where's Rashana? We miss her. How's she? And he's like that put pressure on him because he's like, it was one of those days, but you'll see. So it was just that concept, but they didn't care. They didn't really care. Okay, let's be honest. They really, really didn't care. They weren't. I mean, even the phone calls that you might have gotten wasn't a sincere phone call, as if to be like, is there anything I can do for you? No, it was just to be nosy or to judge you for not, being at a status that everyone is supposed to be at. And I love being out of the organization because the fact that you see that was a bunch of crap, because the people that we create around us now are genuine and they do care. And the fact, if they do care, but also they don't care for you too, they'd be like, girl, I know that's right. I wasn't gonna go either. I mean, and so everybody, like, it's just a different feeling than it was in the organization. It's constantly judgmental, putting you down. But in the real world, that's not how people act.
I know exactly what you're saying. And I want to just chime in just real quick with the experience when you guys were talking about, making your excuses for not being at the meeting and stuff. And I remember I had minor surgery. And when I tell you it was minor, it was outpatient. And it was to the point where I could have went back to the Kingdom Hall like the next day, right? And I just said, I'm going to throw these dice. And I stayed away for 30 days. And this one sister kept saying, she kept calling up JT. She says, where is she at? Finally, she got me on the phone and she said, look, she said, the friends want to know where you are. When are you coming back to the meetings? I'm tired of these people asking me, when you coming back? This was JT's friend from Bethel, his best friend from Bethel. They moved down to our congregation and they were watching me like a hawk. But I don't think it was the friends asking them where I was at. I think they were just the ones that was trying to figure out, when did she come back to the meeting? But I'm telling you right now, I took advantage of that medical condition. I was out,
Don't you ever feel like when they're constantly bothering you about where have you been, when you coming back, I feel like it's like misery loves company.
Yes.
They're like, we got to sit through these meetings and do this field service. You come back too. No, thank you.
Gods are watching. The gods are watching you. How about you, T? How did you feel about that?
Well, I think for me, not being born and raised in it, there was a shift in how people treated me. Like I said, a narrative about me was already brewing as I started. But then as I allowed them to strip away who I was as a person, when I started studying and attending meetings, I was a girls basketball coach, which I really loved. I was living and teaching on the south side of Chicago, but I was coaching girls high school on the west side. And they all knew it because I would miss that Thursday meeting quite often during the season. And so when the word got out, because I was basically confronted by my Bible study conductor that you can't serve two masters, right? You either going to continue to coach or you're going to make your meetings, right? And then again, the whole Jehovah's watching and he already knows. So when I did give that position up, which was very, very hard, Oh, it was, I mean, it was like they wanted to throw like a parade for me, because it was like, okay, this is one step closer to her really identifying as a true Jehovah Witness. And I wasn't baptized at the time, you know? And so I noticed, for me, every step to mimic that new personality, then they would treat me different. Because it's like, okay, she's really becoming one of us. Because in my opinion, people who had no affiliation prior, to, and they come in as adults, they are really judged, like you got to prove yourself, kind of thing. And because I wasn't rushing to get baptized in 90 days or 6 months or anything like that, I felt like, a lot of judgment as far as, is she really here for Jehovah, kind of thing. But yeah, as I began to allow myself to dim my personal light and put on the new personality, walking in step with the cult, yeah, they definitely treated me different.
You know what? What you just got through saying about serving two masters, we heard that all the time at the Kingdom Hall. But just when you just got through saying it, it just sent chills down my spine. Because your religion is supposed to be a part of your life, not your entire life. So you were not supposed to choose between coaching girls basketball and this religion. You know what I mean? So when you really kind of step back and look at it, they're telling you, like you said, dim your light, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Anybody else got a similar experience or want to share something? Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting hearing T's experience because, listening from having had like a different upbringing where I was always a witness, right? Witnesses are so used to certain behaviors that we grow up to believe are normal, like pressuring Bible studies to come to the meeting, pressuring Bible studies to stop celebrating holidays with their family, pressuring Bible studies to give up their jobs. When we're at the Kingdom Hall, we're learning like that's what you're supposed to do. That's the loving thing to do. And why isn't this Bible study progressing fast enough, right? And maybe you need to just drop them. And it's interesting to hear that the people who are Bible students really feel that pressure. It's terrible. It just proves that it's control, all control, a cult.
And you were doing something good, and that's what witnesses don't do. I mean, it's the truth. You were helping. I mean, I'm sure you have relationships with those girls. You were doing something helpful, and you were building relationships. And a lot of times, when people join teams, they look for that too. It's not so much as the game that they're playing, but it's the community they build. And I'm sure your personal relationship with them probably inspired and helped a lot of girls. And that is something that witnesses just don't do. They just don't help. They don't do clothing drives. They don't do the situation with SNAP. We know they weren't helping nobody with food. I mean, they don't do things that there was nothing wrong with that from our side now that we can see that. But in the organization, they are very selfish. They don't think about, I mean, you're to quit that job is to leave those girls that probably are to this day miss you. You know what I'm saying? And that had an effect on them. So I think that that's the other part too, is that we don't help other people. We really don't. And sometimes we don't even help the people in our own organization either. So in that organization, we knew of sisters that may have needed help. We knew of elderly, but they didn't go visit and they didn't go do the things that they need to do. But that has a great effect. So I'm like super sorry about that, because I mean, that is so wrong in the fact that I know you probably enjoyed it and they did too. And to lose their mentor, that had to be difficult.
Yeah, it was real sad. Like, it was a lot of tears. And I justified it that like the girls that I started with, they were seniors. So I was like, okay, like I'll at least see them, on. But then you establish this rapport with those, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And they didn't really understand why. And then, of course, I don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah. So I can't say, well, because I go to the Kingdom Hall when I'm not here with y'all, and things of that nature. But yeah, it was really hard. And so I would still, try to keep tabs on them. But it was just pressure, like you said. The pressure they put on Bible studies. And like I say, if you get labeled progressive, your progression should, it should be in line with what they think, and how you should behave. And they don't help. They do not help. I literally did just do a video about this with the SNAP, and how you have, churches that they condemn, who are feeding any and everybody who stand in line. They're not asking, are you Catholic? Are you this? Are you that? They just know that you are saying you are hungry and in need. And they don't do anything. And they recently just bragged about stopping aid. What was it, in Venezuela? Because they told the Friends to start gardens. And just as proud of that, like, you a $1 billion plus organization, and you are so proud to announce that you stopped whatever aid you were sending because you told them to start gardens. It's unbelievable. Like, when you sit back and think about it, it's disgusting.
It is. I mean, when you really think about it, just, all of your experiences, all of everyone's experiences that you talk to, we have the same common denominator, and that's watchtower influence over our lives, and how when we finally wake up from all of that, we realize how better our lives are. But, let's talk about some things that happened within the organization. Do you guys want to kind of share a memorable moment that really shook you to your core, that you just knew something wasn't right just by the way things were happening to you in this organization?
I remember, this is from when I was very young. My mother was a new Jehovah's Witness. My father was never a witness. So she was a Bible study, and then she had gotten baptized. And maybe just a couple of years after she was baptized, she was sick with chronic fatigue syndrome. So she was home out of work for at least a year. And I just remember that we went from going to the Kingdom Hall all the time, which had caused a lot of fights between my parents, to being at home and not getting out to the Kingdom Hall, and no one came to visit us. I remember that very much. I must have only been in elementary school, but that always stuck with me. I felt like these people aren't really loving like they say they are, because no one visited us, no one called us, nothing from a Kingdom Hall until she got better and we started going back. And that stuck with me. And I feel like years later, when I was married and we went through similar hard times, again, people are not as loving as what they write about in the Watchtower at all. And that to me just shows like this religion does not live up to all of its claims.
Well, one thing, and this is something I realized more so, I guess, as I left, as I was waking up, that I always questioned and always didn't feel right. Just how much people gossiped about me behind my back. And this is even before getting baptized. I was painted as, I don't know, a woman who wanted all these men, everybody's man at the Kingdom Hall. And it's like, honey, please, I don't want not near one of them up in here. But that was the narrative that was being spread about me as a so-called progressive Bible study. So why would you do that to somebody? Right? And when I became aware of this and, let my Bible study conductor at that time know, it always got apologized away as this is a perfect organization with imperfect people. Jehovah knows your heart, all that kind of stuff. But I wish I would have not let them explain it away, because I would have never, got baptized, because anytime I had a concern about you all legit smearing my reputation for whatever evil reason, because I didn't give any of those indications, me being an open book, thinking that these people are genuine, actually taking a genuine interest in me, not realizing that things that I would say, you're just using it to spread, a narrative in the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah, so my dad was an elder. And when I was younger, I always stayed after to, sometimes you have the choice to leave, but I would stay after and I would sit outside. And I knew that the elders were not appointed by Holy Spirit the way I could hear stuff in that room and the way they came out. And this is like me being 9, 10, 12, 14, sitting out there and watching them argue over like how the money was going to go to fund something, sitting them hear about personal matters, judicial situations, like they were going at it. I remember one time I was like sitting by the door, and it's like you can't, the way our hall is, it's like a foyer, so you're like in the corner. And I was just sitting there, and I heard the brother come in. He's like, no, and he's like holding the other brother back, and he's like going after him, and he's like, we ain't gonna do it. Like, I mean, it was just, and I remember thinking like, this cannot be Holy Spirit. There is no way these men are appointed by Holy Spirit. And that always stayed with me. Like, no matter what, I always knew that is not how they're appointed.
These stories are powerful because they show the human side of leaving, the fear, the doubt, the clarity, and the freedom that starts to peek through. And now that you've heard how each woman began her awakening, the next part of this conversation looks at the environment they were waking up from. Be on the lookout for part 2, coming soon.